The morning she left, the birds were louder than usual. Or maybe I was just more aware. I'd been up since 3:40 a.m., sitting in the hallway with a mug of cold coffee, watching the second hand on the clock twitch like it had secrets too. She walked past me in those ridiculous wedge heels she hadn't worn in 5 years, clutching her designer suitcase like it held freedom. No kiss goodbye. No, I love you. Just be sure to feed the cat. We don't have a cat. But I didn't say anything. I didn't ask where the girls were meeting. I didn't ask why her weekend trip required lingerie tags still attached, or why her nails suddenly needed a $90 French set. I didn't ask why her eyes flicked nervously when she thought I wasn't watching. I just stood, calmly, and handed her my suitcase. The one I packed. The one that made her knees go weak before she even opened it. She didn't know I had been to the cabin. Not the one she booked. Oh no. The real cabin. The one her yoga retreat was nowhere near. I'd driven up 2 nights before, just to see it for myself. And what I saw, a single queen bed, champagne flutes on the nightstand, and a note, scribbled in barely legible handwriting. Can't wait to wake up next to you again, Em. I left everything exactly where it was. I took nothing, just photos. When I returned home that night, I didn't scream, didn't cry. I printed the photos, folded them neatly, slipped them into a manila envelope. I placed it inside a suitcase with her name on the tag and truth in every zipper fold. She opened it in the driveway. The second she saw the envelope, her whole body stiffened. She looked up at me like a child caught stealing from the cookie jar, except this time the jar was filled with our years. What is this? I just tilted my head. You were going to lie again. You were going to hug me goodbye and tell me to have a nice weekend. She tried to speak. Nothing came out. I turned around, walked back into the house, and locked the door. Not because I didn't want her back in, but because I wasn't going to let her back into the version of me that waited, that begged, that believed. But that wasn't the twist. The real story, it came the next morning, when someone else showed up on our doorstep. Someone she hadn't told me about. Someone who thought I was the bad guy. And he brought a second suitcase with my name on it. I stared at it for a full minute before opening the door. A sleek charcoal gray suitcase with my name spelled wrong on the tag. Lowell instead of Lowell. Sat on my front steps like some cruel parody of a gift. And behind it stood a man I had never seen before, dressed like he just stepped out of a catalog for divorced finance brothers. He looked nervous, but not guilty. Nervous like someone about to give a speech. He raised a hand halfway, awkwardly. Are you him? I didn't answer. I looked down at the suitcase again. He followed my eyes and said, I didn't pack it. She did. I felt something shift in my chest. Like rage wanted to bubble up, but exhaustion was heavier. I stepped aside and let him in. Don't ask me why. Maybe I wanted to hear the train wreck straight from the conductor. He walked inside slowly, like he half expected me to hit him. Instead, I pointed to the couch. He sat down. I stood. And then he started talking. She told me you were controlling, he said. She said you monitored her emails, tracked her phone, isolated her from her friends. I blinked. Once. She said you wouldn't let her wear makeup, that you hated when she went out, that you didn't believe in therapy. She painted this picture of some jealous, bitter guy who couldn't let go. I sat down. I didn't say a word. And I believed her. I did. I mean, look at me, man. I was falling for her hard. She told me she was getting a divorce, that it was already in motion, that she just needed a weekend away to breathe. He looked at me then, really looked. And then this morning she panicked, said she had to cancel everything, told me to come give you this. He pushed the suitcase a little closer to me and said not to read the note inside, which obviously I did. I raised an eyebrow, and he swallowed. It wasn't a note. It was a letter to you, and it wasn't the voice she used with me. It wasn't the version of her I knew. It was raw, scared, begging. I reached for the suitcase, hesitated, then pulled the zipper slowly. Inside was one hoodie of mine she must have kept, washed and folded. a bundle of Polaroids of us from our early years, a crumpled ticket from a movie we saw on our 3rd anniversary. And then, nestled between it all, a handwritten letter, 12 pages long, folded once. I didn't read it right away. Instead, I looked at the man across from me. "What's your name?" He sighed. "Cameron." "You still in love with her?" He gave a half laugh, half sob. "I don't even know who she is." We sat in silence for a long time. No yelling, no fists, just two men who had been orbiting around the same lie like satellites, finally crashing into each other. Later that night, I read the letter. Every page of it was like peeling off layers of a person I thought I knew. Apologies buried under manipulation. Self-pity tangled in half-truths. Regret dressed in makeup and perfume. She wrote that she loved me but didn't like the life she built with me. That she missed being wanted. That she craved the feeling of being pursued, admired, worshipped. She said she didn't mean for it to go this far. That she tried to end it. That every step deeper was harder to climb out of. That she packed her suitcase with hope, but unpacked it with shame. She ended with, "If you've read this far, I hope you can believe I didn't mean to destroy you. I just didn't know how to save myself." And me? I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was heartbroken, but because the truth that haunted me most was that I didn't even feel surprised. The betrayal didn't shatter me. It confirmed what I'd been too afraid to admit for years, that love built on pretending isn't love at all. And that suitcase, still in the hallway, next to mine, because what I did the next morning is what no one saw coming. Morning hit like a punch. Not because of anything dramatic, but because it was finally quiet. No sound of her coffee mug clinking on the counter. No curling iron humming in the bathroom. No perfume cloud hanging in the hallway pretending things were still soft between us. The silence wasn't peace. It was a reminder of everything I knew and everything I was about to do. I sat at the kitchen table with both suitcases beside me, hers still open, my hoodie now resting on top like a symbol of a version of me she thought she'd buried. I hadn't responded to the letter. Not yet. I hadn't called her. I hadn't even blocked her. I didn't need to. I was done being the one who flinched first. But I had made one call. To someone she never expected. That morning, I met with her mother. It wasn't planned. I hadn't spoken to Madeline in nearly a year. Her mom and I had always had a weird rhythm. Warm one week, cold the next. But she'd always liked how I treated her daughter. She said I brought calm to Margot's chaos. I told her I needed to talk. She didn't ask questions. She told me to come over. And when I laid it all out, proof, photos, even her handwritten letter, Madeline didn't gasp. She didn't cry. She stared at the table like she'd seen it coming for years. "I always thought she'd outgrow it," she whispered. "Thought you'd be the anchor." "She doesn't want an anchor," I replied. "She wants wind." Madeline looked up at me. "What are you going to do?" I told her. In detail. She listened. And then she said, "If you're sure, I'll help." That afternoon, while Margot was supposedly sobbing in the mountains, I packed up our bedroom. I wasn't angry. I wasn't destroying anything. I wasn't throwing her clothes in garbage bags or scratching her face out of photos. I was returning things. Every necklace I'd bought her. Every card she never opened. Every little gesture that she called sweet, but never reciprocated. I put it all in boxes and labeled them carefully. Then I carried the boxes to her mother's garage. Madeline didn't say much. Just handed me iced tea and opened the door. Back at our house, I did one last thing. I wrote a note. Not a dramatic one. Not poetic. Just honest. I placed it in the center of the now empty bed and folded the sheets over it like I was tucking in the truth itself. You packed for escape. I packed for truth. You looked for fireworks. I lit a match. What's left now is space, and I'm finally breathing in it. Then I left the door unlocked. Not for her to come back to me, but so she could see everything I left behind. And exactly what she lost. She returned that evening. I knew because the front camera pinged my phone. I sat in my car 3 blocks away, watching her step out of the rideshare car wearing sunglasses even though the sun had already set. She was alone. and she looked tired. Not sad, tired. She opened the door, stepped inside, and then she ran back out, like something had bitten her. And in a way it had. Everything I'd left her wasn't revenge. It was clarity, the kind that can't be undone or reasoned away. She sat on the front steps and called someone. Probably not her mom. Madeline had warned her she wouldn't interfere. I didn't listen to the call. Didn't need to. The image of her sitting there, alone, surrounded by silence she used to ignore. That was enough. But it didn't end there. The next morning I got an email. No subject line. No greeting. Just one sentence. If you needed to destroy me, congratulations. I stared at it. Not because it hurt, but because that's how she saw it. Not as consequences, but as punishment. She still didn't get it. And so, I started writing my own letter. One I never planned to send, but one I needed to finish. Because the next step I was about to take wouldn't just end our marriage. It would expose everything she'd tried to hide from everyone else. I didn't sleep that night, not out of pain or confusion, but because my brain wouldn't stop spinning with the absurdity of it all. I kept going over the timeline again and again, as if I was still looking for a different version of events. One where this all made sense, one where I could blame someone else. But there wasn't. There was only the raw, uncomfortable truth. She didn't fall out of love with me. She fell in love with the version of herself I didn't recognize. The version that needed constant validation, even if it came at the cost of everything we built. By sunrise, I had written a 3-page email. Not out of spite. Not for pity. I wrote it because her sentence, "If you needed to destroy me, congratulations," echoed in my chest like I was the villain in a story I never wrote. So I wrote back. But instead of sending it to her, I sent it to a list of people I once foolishly called our circle. Her friends, my friends, her coworkers, my sister, her yoga partner, even her college roommate who still followed us both on Instagram and commented fire emojis under her selfies. The subject line was simple. Since I was never asked, here's what really happened. The message wasn't dramatic. It didn't include the cheating photos, the hotel reservations, the letter she wrote, or the message she told Cameron to deliver. It didn't even mention Ryder by name. No screenshots. No scandalous proof. Just the facts. The patterns. The unraveling. I kept it measured but truthful, painfully so. I wrote, "Some of you will say this isn't your business. You're right. But many of you have already made your judgments silently." Liking her cryptic healing posts, sending supportive texts, assuming I was the reason she needed space. I'm not looking for validation. I just want the record to show. I loved her. I tried. I listened when she said she needed room. I respected her boundaries. I cooked the meals she said comforted her. And when she betrayed me, I didn't scream. I gave her space. I gave her truth. And now, I'm giving her the freedom she claimed she never had, with all the weight of reality that comes with it. I clicked send and leaned back in my chair. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel like I'd won. I felt like I had finally removed a mask that wasn't mine to wear. I was done performing as the clueless husband, the quiet guy, the doormat. For the first time, I wasn't narrating my pain. I was just letting it stand on its own. Within hours, replies trickled in. Some short, some angry, some heartbreakingly neutral. My sister. I knew something was off. Proud of you for speaking. Her friend Alina. I feel like a fool. She told us something completely different. Her coworker Anna. You didn't deserve this. Thank you for the clarity. But the reply that stunned me most came from someone I didn't even know personally. Her old boss, Marianne. A cold, no-nonsense woman who once called me mild to my face at a Christmas party. She wrote, "Lowell, I've worked with Margot for 7 years. She's smart, but she's also deeply skilled at rewriting narratives to suit whatever image she's chasing that week. I hope you heal. And I hope you know, survival is not the same as weakness." That one hit. Later that day, Margot finally texted. 3 dots. Then a message. "What did you do? You humiliated me." I didn't reply. She called twice. I didn't answer. She messaged again. "You're ruining my reputation. You don't know what kind of stress I'm under. Still no reply. I wasn't playing games. I just didn't have anything left to say to someone who only saw herself as the victim, even in a story she caused. But the final twist of the day, that came when I walked into my office and saw a package sitting on the floor. No return address. Just my name in neat handwriting I didn't recognize. Inside, a flash drive. A single sheet of paper with 2 typed words. Play me. And when I did, what I heard changed everything. I hesitated before plugging it in. I just sat there in my dimly lit office, flash drive in hand, the 2 words, play me, echoing through my head like a dare I wasn't sure I wanted to take. I had seen enough, felt enough, lived through enough. But still, there I was, breathing slow, heart ticking like a metronome gone out of sync. What more could there be? What hadn't I uncovered already? I clicked the mouse. The screen blinked once. A video file opened. No title. Just a timestamp from 2 weeks ago. The first frame was dark, grainy, probably a poorly lit room. I leaned in. My stomach dropped. It was Margot, her face half illuminated by a lamp. She was sitting on the edge of a bed, knees pulled up, nervously picking at her fingernails. Her voice, quiet at first, filled the speakers. If you're watching this, I guess you already know. There was a long pause. She looked down, wiped her eyes, then gave the kind of laugh you hear from someone who's already halfway broken. I wanted to tell you. I really did. So many times. But every time I looked at you, you were just so kind. So damn kind. And I knew if I told you the truth, that would be the last time you ever looked at me like that. Another pause. Then she reached for a wine glass off-screen and took a sip. Her voice was steadier now, and it shook me how rehearsed it sounded. It didn't start as cheating. Started as escaping. I felt like I was becoming invisible. Not because of you, because of me. I didn't know who I was anymore. So when Ryder noticed me, it lit something up. Not love. Not even lust. Just recognition. My fists tightened on the armrest. And I know you'll say I could have come to you, but I didn't want a solution. I didn't want to fix it. I wanted to fall apart somewhere you couldn't see. Her voice cracked. I don't expect you to forgive me. And I know you never asked for this explanation. But I'm sending it anyway. Because even if you never respond, I want you to know that some part of me, the part that still remembers the guy who made pancakes at 2 a.m. When I was sad, that part still loves you. The screen went black. I sat there for a long time after it ended. Not crying. Not yelling. Just still. Because for the first time, I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt insulted. Not by her cheating. Not even by the betrayal of the vows we once whispered into each other's ears. But by the idea that she thought this was an act of love. She hadn't confessed because she respected me. She confessed because she wanted to ease her own guilt. She wanted to look in the mirror and say she tried. But a video sent anonymously in a box isn't an apology. It's a performance, and I was done being her audience. I backed up the video and forwarded it to one person. Cameron. The man who had once stood on my porch with a suitcase and a wounded look. Just as lost in her story as I had once been. He deserved to see the full picture. Not out of revenge, but out of fairness. Maybe even solidarity. I didn't know what he'd do with it, but I knew he had a right to it. Within 20 minutes, he replied. She told me you were cold. That you were distant. That you'd shut down emotionally years ago. Watching this, man, I don't know what to say. I feel played. I'm sorry. For everything. I read it twice. Then closed my laptop. That evening, I received another surprise. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. One message. You're not the only one she lied to. Attached was a photo. Margot. Sitting at a bar. Hand on a new guy's knee. Different city. Different story. And the sender? The fiancé of someone named Grant. Yet another name I didn't recognize, but apparently, yet another character in Margot's ever-changing cast. She had been doing this longer than I knew. This wasn't a detour. This was her pattern. The mask wasn't slipping. The mask was her. That night, for the first time in weeks, I slept. I didn't dream of her. I didn't wake up scanning my mind for what I could have done differently. I simply slept. Deep. Still. Because I finally understood. The betrayal wasn't just that she had lied. It was that for years, I had loved a version of her that never really existed. And that was the most painful truth of all. But it was also the one that finally set me free. By the following week, the silence had become so thick I could practically hear it breathing. No more texts from Margot. No more late-night calls. No more guilt-laced emails from her friends asking if I was doing okay. Even Cameron had gone quiet after I sent him the flash drive video. The whole thing had passed a tipping point. No one was pretending anymore. Not even her. But that's the funny thing about secrets. Once they're cracked open, they rot fast. And hers were spoiling by the hour. I was sitting in my car in the grocery store parking lot, half listening to the radio, when a name popped up on my phone I didn't expect to see. Shelby K. I stared at the screen. She was Margot's cousin. Technically, more like the outlier of the family. We'd met a handful of times over the years. Weddings, barbecues, a very awkward Thanksgiving where she brought a date that hit on Margot's mom. She was blunt, sharp, the kind of person who made people uncomfortable by simply telling the truth before dessert was served. We hadn't spoken in over a year. Her text read, "You don't owe me anything. But if you've got 10 minutes, I think you deserve to know what Margot was doing in Arizona last summer." Arizona. That hit like a slap. Margot had gone on a wellness retreat last July. She said it was a yoga/digital detox. No phones. No internet. Just spiritual cleansing. She came back thinner, tanner, and somehow colder. I remember trying to kiss her the night she got back and she winced. Said her back was sore from meditation mats. I called Shelby. She answered immediately, no small talk. "Look," she said. "I'm not proud of how I found this out, but my sister used to work at that retreat she claimed she went to. Margot never checked in. Not under her name, not under any alias." My throat tightened. So where was she? Phoenix. At a condo owned by some guy named Julian. He's a dentist. Married. 3 kids. My heart didn't race. Barely moved. That's how numb I'd become. I asked, "How do you know?" "Because I saw them," Shelby said. "I was in Phoenix that weekend visiting friends. Saw her at a rooftop bar, making out with him like no one else existed. She didn't see me. I debated confronting her. But what was the point? I told myself it wasn't my place. But now, after everything you've gone through, I can't keep her secrets anymore." I sat in my car long after the call ended, watching the world go on around me. People pushing carts, chasing toddlers, unlocking trunks. As if my entire life hadn't just twisted again. Another version of Margot had been peeled back. Another lie uncoiled. And I wasn't angry. I was exhausted, devastated in slow motion. I went home, opened the closet, and pulled out the box labeled M's Keepsakes. It was a mix of old birthday cards, dried flowers from anniversaries, printed photos from our early years. I found one from a trip to Flagstaff years ago. Back when we were broke and she used to say, "Cheap motels are romantic." She was in a hoodie, hair a mess, cheeks red from the cold. I stared at it for a long time, and then I tore it in half. I tore all of it, not out of rage, out of acceptance. She wasn't that girl anymore. Maybe she never was. The next morning, something strange happened. I received a Venmo request, $45, from a name I didn't recognize. In the notes, for the wine she ordered, but I ended up paying for. I stared at it for 10 seconds. Then the dots hit me. The name? Maya H. I searched my inbox and found an old party invitation Margot forwarded to me years ago. Maya was on the CC list. An old college friend. I messaged her. "Not sure what this is for. I haven't seen Margot in weeks." The reply came quickly. "She used your name. Told the bartender you'd be covering it. Then ghosted me when I asked her to pay me back. I figured I'd go to the source." I blinked. Reread it. Then typed, "When was this?" 2 nights ago. 2 nights ago. She had claimed she was with a therapist, trying to heal. Told her mother she was off social media for clarity. Told her sister she was working through her shame in solitude. But she was at a bar, using my name, making messes I didn't even know existed. I didn't respond to Maya. I didn't even decline the Venmo request. I left it open, just so she'd know I'd seen it. Instead, I called her mother. When Madeline picked up, she sounded wary. Lowell, I told her everything. The Arizona lie, the dentist, the wine, Maya, all of it. And for the first time, even her mother had no words. Finally, Madeline whispered, I thought she was changing. I thought losing you might wake her up. I replied, she didn't lose me. She gave me away. The next time Margot reached out, she didn't bother with apologies. She sent me a voice memo, 3 seconds long. No words, just sobbing. I didn't press play again. She had nothing left to say I hadn't already heard. And I had nothing left to feel, because the final part of her web was already unraveling. And this time, I wasn't standing beneath it waiting to catch her. I was too busy making space for whatever came next. It wasn't until I saw the for sale sign in the front yard that it really hit me. I wasn't just closing a chapter. I was burning the entire book. Our house, once filled with the scent of rosemary chicken and her lavender diffuser and those late Sunday morning records, was now empty, echoing, and cold in the way abandoned places always are. I had moved most of my things weeks earlier to a small apartment across town. Modest, old floors, too much sunlight, but I had left the house intact just long enough for her to believe it still meant something. And then I sold it, not to punish her, not out of revenge, but because I didn't want to carry the weight of those walls anymore. Every corner whispered of her. The hallway where she once danced in her socks. The kitchen drawer where she hid that letter she never gave me. The closet where I found my hoodie folded like a lie. And the bedroom, well, let's not even go there. I listed it quietly, without a word to her. I worked with a discreet agent. Told them I'd accept an offer quickly if the right one came in. It did. A couple with 2 kids and a Labrador. I liked that. I liked imagining laughter in those rooms again. Something pure. The closing date was set for Friday. Margot, of course, had no idea. She thought I was still cooling off. She texted me sporadically, sometimes demanding, sometimes tender, sometimes so distorted I couldn't even recognize the voice behind the words. One message said she wanted to rebuild. The next accused me of erasing history. I didn't respond to either. And that's when the knock came. Late Thursday afternoon. I had gone back to the house one last time to pick up a few leftover boxes. Old records, my grandfather's war medals, a broken clock I couldn't part with, when I heard it. A hard, fast knock. Familiar, unapologetic. I opened the door. There she was. Margot. No makeup, hair pulled back, in a coat that looked too big for her. She hadn't seen the sign on the front lawn yet. She had walked up from the back alley. She pushed past me before I could speak. Her eyes scanned the living room. The shelves were empty. The walls were blank. My tools were gone. She blinked hard. What? What is this? I said nothing. She turned to me, breath hitching. Are you moving out? No, I said calmly. We are. Her lips parted, and then her eyes darted toward the window. She spotted it. The sign. Sold. For a moment, I saw every version of her crash into one expression. Confusion. Denial. Panic. Rage. Loss. You sold our house? She whispered. I corrected her gently. I sold my house. You gave it up the moment you left it with a suitcase full of someone else's plans. She stepped forward like she might touch me, like maybe physical closeness could collapse the distance between us. I thought you said you needed time. I did, and I used it. She shook her head. You can't just throw it all away, Lowell. Years, memories, everything we've been through. I cut in quietly. You threw it away. I just signed the paperwork. She stood there, breathing shallow, hands trembling at her sides. I could see it, the realization creeping into her bones. The performances didn't work anymore. The excuses, the tears, the letters. She had nothing left to twist, no narrative to spin. The audience had left the theater. You could have told me, she muttered. I could've, I agreed. But you don't tell strangers your plans. And you made yourself one. Then I walked past her. Out the front door. Down the steps. Into the driveway. She didn't follow me. And I didn't look back. That night, for the first time in months, I went to sleep in a new bed that didn't carry the scent of betrayal. No creaking floorboards reminding me of footsteps that used to sneak past me. No photos on the walls waiting to mock me in the dark. Just me. Just space. Just silence, the good kind this time. But the story wasn't over. The next morning, I got a knock on my apartment door. Not from Margot. Not from Cameron. From someone else entirely. Someone holding a manila envelope. And what was inside would turn everything I knew about Margot's betrayal into something much, much darker. The man at the door looked official, but not in a threatening way. More like a tired postal worker who had already dealt with 3 angry dogs and just wanted to get through his shift. He handed me the envelope and asked me to sign something. No name, no explanation, just a delivery. Inside the envelope were 3 things. First, a typed letter, not from Margot, but from her former therapist. It was a formal statement, copied to several names I didn't recognize, stating Margot had been terminated from the clinic for misrepresenting her sessions. Apparently, she had used my name and Cameron's as part of a fake couples therapy log to receive discounts. She told them we were in group recovery, used false names, created fake progress reports, a full year of deception, for savings. Second, a list of reimbursement invoices, hundreds of dollars she never paid, but my name was on every file. And third, a handwritten note from her therapist, scribbled in pen at the bottom of the page. I debated sending this, but I've been reading your story online. I just wanted you to know you were never the one losing control. She was, and now she's out of places to hide. I sat there, stunned, but not hurt, because this wasn't about betrayal anymore. It was about release. In that moment, I realized I wasn't carrying her weight anymore. Not her lies, not her guilt, not even her name. I wasn't chasing closure. I wasn't analyzing every detail, wondering what I missed. I wasn't even angry. I was free. 2 months later, I stood in my new kitchen, cooking dinner for the first time in what felt like forever. Real food, real music playing from my phone. And across the counter, a friend I hadn't seen in years. Someone who knew me before Margot, before the masks, before the spiral. We talked. We laughed. We told stories that weren't dipped in sadness. And for the first time, I saw the outlines of something new. Not a romance, not a rebound. Just peace. And that was more than enough. I still get messages sometimes. People who read what happened. People who've lived their own versions of it. And they always ask the same question. Do you regret loving her? And I always give the same answer. No. I regret staying after I stopped being loved back. So that's where my story ends. Not in revenge. Not in some fiery breakdown. But in clarity. In self-respect. In the quiet realization that survival doesn't have to be loud to be powerful. Thanks for sticking with me through all 8 parts of this story. Now it's your turn. Have you ever uncovered a truth that changed everything? Or walked away from something or someone and felt more whole because of it? Drop your story in the comments below. I read every one. Let's keep sharing, healing, and growing together. And if this resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. You're watching Reddit Confessions, where the truth doesn't just come out, it sets you free.